am Babla Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. We're broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, one person dies in a fire incident in Lum in the Mongo Division littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. The victim was consumed by wild flames. Barrister Yondo Black, former Bar Council president, blames what is happening on the situation of Cameroon on bad governance. He was speaking to La Vérité en Face on Equinoxe television yesterday, and he said that Professor Maurice Kamto, president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, is even more preoccupied with the Anglophone crisis than President Paul Biya, elected by the people, who has the mandate of the people and the responsibility to protect the citizens. A fire incident has killed one person in Lum in the Mongo Division littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. The dead victim is a trader at the Lum market, and the fire incident occurred earlier today in that market, leaving one person dead. The victim was burned to death. In other words, she was consumed by wild flames, and the fire incident is said to have been provoked by illegal sale of fuel in the Lum market by some traders, and wrong manipulation of fuel led to the fire incident, according to witness accounts. And an aged woman was consumed by flames in the house where the fire incident occurred. Another victim sustained third-degree injuries and is responding to treatment in the hospital. Barrister Yondo Black, former Bar Council president, says the bad governance of the Biya regime has made Cameroonians to be nostalgic of the Aïdjo regime. That is the time when the first president of Cameroon, Amadou Aïdjo, was in power. And speaking on La Vérité en Face yesterday on Equinoxe television, the legal mind said that Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, is more preoccupied by the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country than President Paul Biya, who has the people's mandate, who was elected by the people and has the responsibility to protect the citizens of the country. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
To former bâtonnier and politician Barrister Yondo Black, the solution to what he calls the problems of Cameroon will only come from an Anglophone, because Anglophones are groomed in liberalism as opposed to Francophones trained by the cane and the iron fist. With Cedric Noufeli, Babla Jonathan and Juval Fongwa on La Vérité en Face, the legal mind compared the Aïdjo and the Biya regime to illustrate what he calls bad governance in Cameroon.
Aïdjo a tué beaucoup de Camerounais, mais n'empêche qu'aujourd'hui le président Biya a réalisé l'espoir de faire regretter Aïdjo.
Aïdjo killed many Cameroonians. He could not be compared to anybody. But today, President Paul Biya has made Cameroonians to be nostalgic about Aïdjo.
Quand on était enfant,
in our days in school, malaria treatment was given free every Friday.
tous les vendredis,
A lot of things were free. But today's services in Cameroon are not only expensive, but also of poor quality.
le Camerounais recherche qu'il ait de l'eau à boire.
Cameroonians are unable to have basic goods like water and electricity. The Douala-Yaoundé double carriage route is still unfinished after 10 years. With the Biya regime, when you are strong, you are sent far away. Whereas with the Aïdjo regime, the strong and productive people were brought closer.
Le président Biya, quand tu es fort, il t'élimine. Tu es loin de lui, comme si tu étais son concurrent.
The bâtonnier then used his experience to illustrate further.
Moi-même qui vous parle, dans le prolongement du boulevard de la République,
During the project to extend the Boulevard de la République, I was deprived of 700 meters square of land. and 10 years after, I have not been paid my indemnities.
Je vous dis que ça fait plus de 10 ans. La loi dit, quand il y a expropriation, on donne d'abord l'indemnité avant de...
On the support to Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, Batoni Yondo Black says Kamto is the symbol of true change in contemporary Cameroon.
Le président Kamto a la chance pour l'heure.
Look at the crowd he pulled in Paris. Do you know what it means to fill the Place de la République in France? You must be loved. Remember the crowd he pulled here at Deido when he came back from France. Do we have that crowd when President Biya is going out? When the CPDM paid people to stage a protest at the French embassy in Yaoundé? How many people answered present?
He also believes that Maurice Kamto is illegally held under house arrest in Yaoundé.
On dit tous les jours en France, Macron démission, Macron démission. Vous avez entendu un jour qu'on a arrêté quelqu'un pour ça?
In France, protesters are asking for the resignation of Emmanuel Macron, but no one has been arrested or charged for insurrection. We had a similar march in the United States when Trump was elected. Why is Cameroon different?
Oh, c'est lui qui provoque.
The legal mind says Maurice Kamto is most preoccupied by the Anglophone crisis, most qualified to handle the crisis than President Paul Biya. The Anglophone crisis would not persist if the current regime really loved Anglophones, according to Barrister Yondo Black.
Council officials in Yumojok subdivision in the southwest region of Cameroon have been urged to work hard for the return of peace and normalcy in that municipality and by extension the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. The two northwest and southwest English-speaking regions of the country in crisis for close to 4 years. Today, they were urged by the senior divisional officer of Manyo Division, de Joseph, to work so that life can return to normal in that part of the country. They were commissioned into their functions over the weekend. And in the Mamfe, still in the southwest region of the country, the mayor has announced the construction of a residential area to receive internally displaced persons expected to come back home from neighboring Nigeria. He made this information public during a recent council session in Mamfe. Details from Manjika Ngebre.
It was a quiet Mamfe town that Equinoxe television crew met. The town, as well as other localities in the southwest and northwest region, have also witnessed the negative impact of the Anglophone crisis, with most of its inhabitants on the run. Hoping for better days ahead, Council is already preparing a structure that is expected to host over 200 internally displaced persons who are to return from neighboring Nigeria. The information was disclosed during a council session. The mayor, Robinson Tabenchong Ashu, said apart from hosting the IDPs, they will have food and medication allowances given to the internally displaced persons until they regain their homes. At Eyumojok, it was the new mayor, Ntufam Ayamba Jacques Aita, who was commissioned into office by Senior Divisional Officer of Manyu Division.
We urge them to work together, to work hand in glove for peace to reign in the Eyumojok Council, to call upon the youth who are still hiding in the bushes to come back. Because the main assignment we have given to them during this installation, during the moment that we have been commissioned at the helm of this council, is to liaise with those young people to come back for peace to reign. And I dwell also on the fact that I want them to carry out efficiently their job, their duties on the field.
The mayor, who doubles as chief of Eyumojok, says he is set to bring peace in Eyumojok.
My role as mayor is to serve. My role as mayor is to empower
even though the town is still shaky.
We cannot say there is complete peace until all our sons who are in the bushes will come out to meet us in subsequent ceremonies. But I want to say that there is much peace here in the Umojok subdivision.
Umojok is made up of 66 villages and is in between Ikom town of Nigeria and Mamfe of Mayu division.
And the report coming up next, correspondent in the Northwest region, Bustela, takes a look at how persons living with disabilities are suffering because of the unpleasant and difficult situations in which they find themselves as a result of the crisis and also the coronavirus pandemic. And she also takes a look at how some men and women of goodwill are trying to help them to be able to push through with life. Her report.
It is 2 weeks into another academic year in Cameroon. Generally, distribution of didactic materials is the general trend. Institutions and individuals are targeting school-going children but are leaving out persons with disabilities.
Our elites seem not to understand that persons with disabilities are a veritable part of the society. They make up about 15% of our nation's population, and they range from youths to women to the elderly. They have been neglected to a great extent. Hardly do I see a ream of papers even given to one person with visual impairment, or a slate, or any didactic material for persons with assorted disabilities. That is to tell you that inclusion is still somewhat far-fetched in Cameroon.
On the streets of Bamenda and in bookshops, school equipment adapted for persons with visual impairments are lacking. Even when they are available, the prices are out of reach for they who have been battered by happenings linked to the socio-political and security crisis.
Braille stylus, like what I have here, is 2,500 francs. And that tells you that the life of persons with disabilities is quite an expensive one. It's not easy to even see them. Talking about this braille stylus, you can't easily afford it. To know where to even buy is difficult.
This week in Bamenda, Tembom Elvis, a blogger, thinks about they who cannot use normal exercise books during his distribution of didactic materials to internally displaced pupils and students.
For those with disabilities have special ability. I've worked with some of them before. They are proven to me that they are more than capable of doing the tasks assigned to people we think are much more normal. And so on this solemn day that we thought we should ask children to go back to school, they are one of the people we also thought we should empower, so that at least as they are going, we will not consider that disability as a factor.
Disability is part of a human condition. In the Northwest region, the number of persons with disabilities are increasing due to the armed conflict. Whether the disability is natural or later acquired in life, persons with disability look forward to a day in Cameroon when they will be looked upon as persons with special abilities. For even as inclusion is preached, public buildings are erected without considering those with mobility impairments.
Three persons have been arrested in connection to the sale of cannabis, which is an illegal business in the Republic of Cameroon. The 3 suspects were arrested in Buda in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon, and the cannabis they were transporting for sale was coming from Kumba in the Meme Division, Southwest region, or rather Kumbu in the Northwest region of the country. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Bags of marijuana branded as maize and loaded on a 30-seater bus. The 10 bags that left Kumbu in the Northwest region were intercepted by custom officers at the entrance of the town of Mbuda, west region of Cameroon.
The
sale of illicit drugs promotes insecurity, so we are putting in efforts to combat such practices. The population needs to be protected.
En même temps, nous le savons tous, Il n'y a pas de guerre sans opium.
The discovery was made after the security elements received a tip-off.
J'aimerais inviter la population.
I would love to call on the entire population to collaborate with us so we can track down criminals. Thanks to the information that was given, we have recorded positive results. We can only succeed if everyone decides to kick off insecurity.
The driver, bus assistant, and suspected drug trafficker have been intercepted, awaiting trial.
The United Nations is stepping up efforts to ensure that people in remote communities in the Republic of Cameroon are well informed, edified on issues concerning the coronavirus pandemic, and this is why they brought together some community radio journalists in the town of Limbe in the southwest region of the country to train them so that they can effectively and efficiently disseminate information on the fight against coronavirus in the communities. Davidson Maimo reports.
Most often, the poorest and most vulnerable population are not reached by conventional media in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Community radio stations, therefore, are the best and reliable source to reach out to the vulnerable local population. The Global Response Plan put in place by the United Nations to accompany the government of Cameroon gives an important place to community radio stations in the risk communication and community engagement component. It is in this regard that a 4-day workshop aimed at equipping media practitioners working with community radio stations was organized by UNESCO in partnership with UNDP to fight against coronavirus misinformation, especially from the social media.
Bad quality of information that is reaching to the population in the great towns, but now it can also reach community level.
The project, according to the organizers, is based on the need to ensure that maximum number of Cameroonians their right to information on COVID-19 in order to contribute to a stronger commitment of all in the fight against this disease is attained.
Because just one person ignorant on COVID-19 is a danger for the whole the world, Cameroon and the world.
Participants expressed satisfaction of new techniques learned in delivering messages to combat the spread of the pandemic.
As community radio experts, we need to tailor programs towards the needs of our communities. We must inform everybody to know that COVID-19 is real.
And I have also gathered that it is a fight that all of us must get involved. No one is exempt from it.
The objective is to ensure that the population in remote areas who do not always understand messages from English or French fully participate in strategies to fight against COVID-19 and misinformation.
This information, even when this information reaches them, they reach them with a language that they cannot understand. Community radio can take this message and give this message in local languages, language that people can understand.
Participants at the workshop were drawn from the southwest and littoral for the first phase, northwest, west, center, and south for the second phase. The project shall strengthen the capacity of over 40 community radio stations in all the 10 regions, with a total of 120 community radio broadcasters.
And information streaming into our studios from our correspondent in the southwest region of the country, Derek Jato, indicates that victims of the 4-year-long armed conflict in the two English-speaking regions today, known as internally displaced persons, are facing rejection in their host communities, and this is why some journalists are being trained in the southwest region of the country in order to be able to work in hand in glove with some organizations that are trying to help these IDPs in order to disseminate information that will encourage the IDPs and also encourage the host communities to continue helping until things return to normalcy for them to return to their homes. Darijato has more.
I would like you to write in the chat space.
Lecturers of Distance Education Program of the University of Boya in a virtual workshop.
Professor Ephraim Fangla is training us right away. This time around we are looking at quality assurance. Quality assurance in terms of the content, in terms of the language, in terms of the graphic, in terms of maybe even the voice control.
Professor Ephraim Fangla is in his South African office. And for 5 days, these lecturers have been exchanging with these South African-based distance education experts from Buea, Cameroon.
Yes. It's also enriching for me, and I think that after this, I will be a better distance education instructor.
Chief Professor Agbo Bechem, Dean of the Faculty of Education here in the University of Buea, reviewed the 5 days input.
Now, the Commonwealth of Learning has given us a second resource person who cannot come here in person, but will also make us know that we can learn by distance. We did the workshop by distance with him. For this past 5 days, we have tried to evaluate what we have been doing as distance learning for the past 12 years, since 2008, and see how we can moderate it and give quality assurance capacities to it, such that we can even see how to replicate what we have done so far.
Closing the workshop, Professor Horace Ngomomanga, Vice Chancellor of the University of Buea, while congratulating the Faculty of Education for being so flexible to be able to change with the changing times by blending distance learning with technology, also called on the faculty to inject the pedagogic skills into lecturers of other faculties and schools of the University of Buea.
The rest of us who don't belong to Faculty of Education are not trained teachers. So they are experts in education, and one of the challenges is how you transmit the skills you have to the learners. It's quite challenging, and these are the experts that study that area, come out with the challenges that those who are involved in this enterprise of knowledge transmission are involved, are the quality assurance norms that go with it.
Certificates were awarded to these participants at the close of the workshop.
The Rejato rather reporting there on e-learning in the University of Buea. Now we're taking you to Galim in the West region of the Republic of Cameroon. It is one of the localities along the border between the west and the northwest regions of the country, hosting many internally displaced persons who are struggling to make a living from help they are receiving from people in their host communities, and also petty businesses that they are carried on with. And of course, it is quite difficult for many of them to make a living after they escaped violence in their home villages, and came over to the west region of the country to start life from point zero. Details with Immaculate Fogwe.
These internally displaced children residing in Galim in the Bambutos Division, West region of Cameroon, after having been forced out of their homes and deprived of education due to the over 3 years armed conflict, are determined to continue with their education. While children across the national territory effectively kickstarted school on the 5th of October 2020, these children living in Bazaar are rather assisting in the construction of their classrooms. The internally displaced parents, their children, and the lone school administrator are putting their hands on deck in order to ensure that the teaching and learning process is effective.
The children have not been schooling for several years. So when we arrived here, we told the mayor about our difficulties, and he promised building classrooms for us here in Bazaar. We are still waiting for him to react. Classes have not yet begun. We are trying to clean the area in order to ease the learning and teaching process. I have taken pictures of the site and sent to my hierarchy. I am still expecting them to react.
Added to infrastructural challenges, the population of Bazaar lack potable water, electricity, and health centers.
Up next, Davidson Maimo takes us to Ndame village in Limbetu subdivision. It is an important tourist attraction which has been abandoned by its inhabitants. The inhabitants of the area had to leave because of the difficulties that they were facing on a day-to-day basis. Davidson Maimo takes us to Ndame village, Limbetu subdivision, southwest region of Cameroon.
Ndame Island, located within Limbe 2 municipality. It is the second biggest island within Limbe, after the Mondoli Island of Limbe 3 municipality. This island was once inhabited by the Ndame people of the Wovia clan, but as development proceeds within Limbe, the inhabitants of Ndame left the island due to difficulties of having social amenities such as water and food.
Going down for water to the shop, going down to buy anything, the journey and the tussle was too much for them.
The beauty of the island we are made to understand. The government of Cameroon and other foreign investors have indicated interest in developing the island for touristic purpose.
Many people have come here indicating their intention with the government, right from the presidency, to take the islands and rebuild them for a beautiful touristic site. As you can see where we are standing, pure basalt rock, water cannot tamper with it. They have withstand the 6,000 years the well has existed without them crumbling.
These are great-grandsons and daughters of Ndame and root the Ndame Island, the ancestral land, to appease their ancestors. As we arrive the island, thousands of bats emerge from the island.
The presence of the bats signifies that the ancestors have recognized us, our ancestors have recognized us, that we have come to pay them homage on our land.
The people of the once extinct village of Ndame Island say, there is nothing as good as recognizing your root.
This is what my village produce. We used to eat these things. They call them mitoli. There's no place sweet like home. So I'm very happy being here in this my ancestral land.
Appealing to the state of Cameroon to resettle them since they are without a home that they can call their own.
We want to be restated so that we can build our own indigenous community and autonomous village.
In the recent publication by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Ndame Island village is well recognized within the villages of Limbe, but without a people to fully establish the existence of the village.
Ndame Island village in Limbe 2 subdivision, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, has decided to suspend the implementation of the digital tax collection. The collection of taxes on mobile telephones imported into the country has been suspended by the President of the Republic, and this is contained in a release signed by the Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gongo, who indicates in the release that on high instructions from the President of the Republic of Cameroon, the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, is instructed to put an end to the implementation of the digital collection of taxes on mobile telephones in the country, and that a better mechanism should be submitted as far as the collection of that tax is concerned. There has been a general outcry on the impact of such a decision on the consumer, who many said will be paying taxes for what he did not actually benefit from, and that some experts have also indicated that it was going to rather increase fraud instead of fighting fraud. It was initially intended to fight against fraud as far as tax revenue collection is concerned, but experts think that it was going to produce rather a negative effect on tax collection in the country and on final consumers. And we talked to Rebecca Enonchon, serial technology entrepreneur who spoke to us from the United States of America, and she actually analyzed the negative impact that the decision by governments to collect tax on mobile telephones imported into the country through the digital means was going to have on the population and even on tax revenue in the country. Meet her in Talking Point.
Well, as concerns new tax that the government has imposed on telephones, it is not really easy. Customers are not still coming to the market. They are not even still coming at all. Why? Because normally when we buy our telephones, we order our telephones, we always pay the taxes at the airport before the phones entering the country. But presently they say customers has to pay, and they are asking of 33%. So it's difficult. It's actually difficult. Customers come and even question us. Does it mean that if I buy a phone for 30,000 francs, I have to pay 33% of that 30,000 francs to the government? How does that have to pass?
As a seller, the tax that the government put on the phones, I don't think that for my own thinking, it's not nice, because what I'm seeing, even only from the day that they mentioned it, it's hard for us to sell. Always running, people are complaining that the tax that they are putting in the phone is not good.
No, I'm not okay with the tax. We are not okay with the tax. The mass are not okay with the tax. Generally, not even us, because we are selling. Even the buyers, even the users, nobody's okay with the tax. It's abnormal. Because I've not noticed that in any other country. I don't know, maybe in Europe or America, but here in Africa, I've not noticed that. So we are not okay with the tax. Even the maxis, because of that, we are not selling new phones anymore. Are you getting me? Then, because buyers, they prefer to buy second-hand phone now that they have already used. We selling new phones, we are not okay. And the tax is too much. It's too much. I'm sorry to say too much. So we are not condemning the tax, but if they can reduce the rate of the tax, it can be convenient for us and convenient for the users.
Some Cameroonians reacting there, and these reactions were taken before the decision of the President of the Republic to suspend the implementation of that digital tax collection on phones or mobile telephones and tablets imported into the country. And I said earlier that we talked to a serial technology entrepreneur, Rebecca Enonchon. Take a listen to her in Talking Point.
I first wanted to thank you for inviting me to contribute to this debate. Obviously, I feel very, very passionate about this topic. I've been working to try to improve the digital economy and digital entrepreneurship in Africa, in Cameroon, and in the rest of Africa for over 20 years. And so this measure, because it touches the digital economy so closely, is something that I feel very passionate about, and I have a lot to say. Everything is wrong with it. Everything. First of all, how do you punish a consumer because customs officials were unable to do their job? That's the first thing. Then you have the fact that you have it done in a very intrusive manner that might even be illegal. We're waiting for confirmation from BIAC on whether or not, pulling money from your telephone credit, your airtime, in order to, as legal tender, is something that's legal. And then it's done through this platform that we have absolutely no information on. So what is the technology architecture of this platform? What are the security measures put in place on this platform to make sure that our data, our confidential data, is kept secure? We don't know. And then the platform is actually owned by a third party with a very questionable past. And we have a company that we have never heard of that is in charge. And we don't even understand how this contract went through. So we don't even know what the contract contains. So these are all a lot of questions and problems and issues that I have with the platform. And then when you take all of that and then you add in the fact that this will have a negative impact on this digital economy, which is shown to be so crucial. You know, it's so important that we do as much as we can to support the digital economy, and this goes completely in the opposite direction. So really, those are the issues that I have with this measure. Mobile airtime is not valid tender in the CEMAC zone. There is a list of legal tender in the zone that's written and voted on, and airtime credit is not amongst them. And so it's a product. It's like you're going into a store and you're making a purchase, and then you leave with your purchase. The merchant retains the money, and you're not going to go back to the merchant and say, okay, yeah, I gave you, this much money, but I haven't finished using up everything I bought. So can I use part of that money to make another payment? You can almost think of it as even your rent, right? So at the beginning of the month, you pay your rent, but you haven't used up all of the days of that rent. And imagine that Eneo decides that they're going to pull their the amount of their bill from the equivalent of the amount that you have left in your month that you haven't used. It just doesn't make any sense. And there's another issue as well, is that if we're going to consider that airtime or the credit that you have on your phone is legal tender, then that means that all of the agreements that the telecommunication companies had to obtain in order to launch their mobile money products were for nothing. So why would they have to go through all the trouble of going and doing, obtaining all these agreements to do mobile money that were costly, if mobile money is the same as airtime credit? So I think that there are many issues around that, and I don't think that it's a legal measure. So the impact on the digital economy is obviously, for me, the thing that is the most important. So beyond all of those other issues that make this measure one that's not a positive one, and it has so many negative aspects to it, the one that really touches me is the one on our digital economy. We know, for instance, listen to this number. It's an unbelievable number. 8 trillion CFA. 8,000 billion CFA. So that is the amount of contribution to taxes that the digital economy brought to Africa in 2017. It also contributed 3 million jobs just in mobile sector on the continent. Those figures really help to understand how impactful the digital economy can be on the continent and, of course, in Cameroon. And in Cameroon, in fact, the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications decided in 2015 that it would increase the contribution of the digital economy to our overall economy from 5% in 2015 to 10% in 2020. So that means that the value of those 10% of our GDP come to 2 trillion CFA francs. 2 trillion, that's 2,000 billion. That's how much our digital economy contributes, according to the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, to our economy. So it's very curious to see how important this is. And we also know that the costs of investment from the state to the digital economy is very low. There's not much that they have to invest. It's done by private companies more so than the government. And so the return on investment is tremendous. And so we all must do things to support the digital economy, not to discourage it. And this measure, imagine that most of the users of technology. Most of the people that will touch one way or another that digital economy will touch it through a device, a phone. They won't touch it through a computer. And so the only access they have to this digital economy, and we're telling them that, hey, you know, through your phone, you can get health services. Through your phone, you can learn and you can get education services. Through your phone, you can engage in trade and get information. And so we're trying to encourage them to use the phone in a way that will also promote and support our digital economy while giving social benefits to the user. And then now with this measure, we're going to really change the relationship that people have with their devices, because now the phone becomes a collection agent for states. You know, most users in Cameroon put very little phone credits in their phones. We're talking about an average of about 500 francs a week. Out of that 500 francs a week, imagine picking up your phone and wondering if you have enough money to make a phone call, because you every day the system has come in and taken credit from your phone every single day. Just imagine psychologically the relationship that you now have with this very important device that we want everybody to use, because the more people use it, the more we grow as an economy. And so I really question whether or not people looked at this aspect when they were putting in this measure. And I'm really wondering if the amount that we're going to collect, additional collection for the custom duty, will balance out the loss in the economy that we will get. And I don't really believe that. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of information on the architecture of this platform, its design, and all of those are important to understand whether or not our data is going to be secure, and whether or not it's overly intrusive to our privacy. So we do know, though, given the information that they have already given us, that there are some loopholes in the design of this platform. One of them is around the IMEI number. Remember that they've told us that they're going to calculate the amount of custom duty that's owed by looking at the model of the phone, right? So what type of phone it is, and they identify the model through what's called an IMEI number. So it's a unique identifier for a phone. Unfortunately, our Chinese friends that want to make very, very, very cheap phones often use a single IMEI number for a whole range, a whole series of phones. And so it's not a phone equal one IMEI. So you may have 1,000 phones that have the same IMEI number. And the other issue is around multiple dual SIM card phones. So many of those dual SIM cards also have 2 IMEI numbers. And so does this mean that you'll be billed twice? So you have one that, you know, with a SIM card from one telco, and then the second one with a SIM card from another operator. And so which one of those two will be the one to do the billing? It doesn't seem very clear how they intend to do this, make that distinction. But what they have used, and Mr. Zambo, who is behind this platform and the owner of this platform, has explained that they're going to use triangulation. Well, triangulation is a very technical term. It just means that what you're doing is you're trying to find the location of a phone, and you're going to find the location of that phone by using 3 of the towers that it connected to, and then you know that it's in the middle of those towers, so that you can really find a phone or find an individual that you're looking for. This is generally used for, you know, if somebody has run away or somebody has disappeared, you try to triangulate the last location of their phone. And so even government uses triangulation. If they do, they would do so through a warrant. So they would obtain a legal warrant and serve the telecommunications company with that warrant to get information on the location of a phone. And so it really bothers me that they're saying that this is the method, triangulation, that they're going to use in order to figure out if you have a double SIM card or if your phone has is a part of a series using the same IMEI number. And I feel like they're just throwing out the word triangulation, and it's going to end up as 32 equals 500. It's going to be another one of those stories. But if indeed they are planning on using triangulation, that raises serious privacy issues because they'll need real-time access to very sensitive data, very, very sensitive data. And that requires technical capacity, that requires a lot more security and technology than we know that this platform has. So, and where is this platform? We have no idea. We have no idea. The platform could be in a secured data center. It could be in Mr. Zambo's office or in his bedroom. We have no idea. But what we do know is that the telcos will be sending data along to the platform, right? So our data, which is very valuable, will be sent to this new platform. How it's being sent, we don't know. And is the data secured? We know that data is so valuable. It's almost like if you're taking money and you're transporting money from point A to point B, you make sure that it's secured. And so for data, we call that encryption. And so you use various encryption mechanisms to make sure that the data is, really secured from your point A to point B. Are they using those methods? Because if not, it's very easy for a third party, a thief, to take that data and steal it and use it for their own purposes. And so it's very serious. We do need to know a lot more about the technology platform. What database they're using, what's the architecture. So many of these questions we simply do not have answers to.